everyone. My name is Shelby Edwards. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the development coordinator here at Live Arts. Thank you so much for joining us for 30 Plays in 30 Days, a Live Arts retrospective. Tonight, we will be talking about the 2019-2020 season at Live Arts, our current season. And in just a moment, we will be joined by Jeremy Duncan, Pape, the director of Men on Boats this season, as well as Live Arts' interim artistic director. Later tonight, we will also be joined by the wonderful cast of Men on Boats, and special shout out to Liz Howard, who was backstage being our facilitator tonight. Next, I would like to shout out our community partner. So many thanks to the Charlottesville, the Boys and Girls Club of Central Virginia. I have the pleasure of working for both organizations, and they are two nonprofits that are very close to my heart, in addition to serving lots of wonderful community members. I also run a book club there, and we do give away food on Tuesdays and Thursdays, generally from 3:30 to 5:30. So cheers to you all at the Boys and Girls Club of Central Virginia. And without further ado, we will now have Jeremy join us.
Hey,
there you are. Hey. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm a little sad that we're not going to be doing this every night. How are you?
Good. No substantial complaints. It's never interesting when I complain. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your relationship to Live Arts and what you're up to now?
Sure. Jeremy Duncan Pape, interim artistic director at Live Arts. I've been involved in theater since I was about 5 years old. I think it was the first time I was in a play. I was the little kid on stage who had everybody else's lines memorized. And when they would forget them, I would whisper them to them. So I was that kid. Obviously, I was bound to be a director at some point. And I stuck with it for my whole life. And I grew up in Charlottesville. And so in the mid 90s, I feel like I probably started coming in as an audience member to Live Arts. My parents were friendly with a number of the founders. They were my teachers at various points in time. And then in 1999, Fran roped me into running light, sound, and projection for How I Learned to Drive. So kind of got thrown in the deep end with some unbelievably, amazingly talented human beings. And then acted in Cripple of Inishmaan and acted in another play that summer, and then went off to school and life. And I was away for about 18 years. And in that time, my parents were really heavily involved at Live Arts. I would come by and either see shows or go to the gala or jump into the shop anytime I was in town. But then in the beginning of 2018, I was hired as the technical director. And now here we are.
Well, that's awesome. Why did you choose to come back to Live Arts? I think it's really important to acknowledge that you were having an amazing career, but you made the active choice to come back. So why?
It's a lot of things. For one, I found that from my personal experience, the commercialization of art made it really untenable and made it really toxic and unpleasant to be around. There's something really ugly that happens to the ego when it's tied to art, and it can make it just not as much fun. And nobody's getting rich in theater, and so we need to be having fun. We need to be enjoying ourselves and enjoying the people we're with, and that also helps us tell better stories and more interesting stories and make for a more welcoming place. And so Live Arts, it was like coming home. it does not feel like a step down for me from the work I was doing. It feels in many ways like an uplifting. It feels like bringing skills that I've learned elsewhere to a place that I truly, truly value, and feel like I get more out of it than what I put in.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jeremy. I was having some exchange with John Gibson. He mentioned the
Mhm.
generations that will come with live arts. And I feel like you and me are part of that second generation. Like we have memories as kids. And I think it's wonderful that you're working so closely with live arts. So like Frankie, who will be like the third generation, will be able to enjoy it too, if she likes theater. I don't know if that's a deal breaker for you.
I mean, I hope she's. I like to say about her mom Trish that she's smart enough to love theater and wise enough to not work in it. So I hope Frankie inherits that. um,
Love it.
mhm.
Well, awesome. So why don't we go ahead and get started with the presentation and go down memory lane?
Yes.
Um, and yeah, look at the shows. So the 2019, 20, oh my gosh, 2018, 20, words are hard. 2019, 2020 season, we have Follies. This was my first show that I saw actually when I became officially on staff. What a treat. I was so happy to see that Bob was involved in the production.
I mean, Bob Chapel is just he's a Charlottesville staple in so many ways. And this, yeah, let's not roll over that fact though that this was your first season as staff member. I think let's make sure we, yeah. But this show, I mean, it's funny because I think Sondheim said something along the lines of, this is a show about nothing. A bunch of people show up to a party and nothing really happens. And in some ways that's really true, and in some ways it's not. But so it was sort of this opportunity to put together these local all-stars. I mean, Bob Chapel at the helm, Greg Harris with the music, people like Wendy Novikov, Jerry Sauls, Pat Owen, Phyllis, Tiffany Smith and James Scale, and you see Kate Monahan there in the background, Linda Zuby. I'm going to forget somebody and they're going to let me know about it because it's also a large cast. But they're just,
it was a good cast.
Yeah, you know, and Grace and Apollo and Parker and Emma and Jeff. I mean, they're just so it's just every single one of these people is a real talent, and they all get to have a song and they all get to have a moment, and it's kind of lovely. Even the chorus is packed full of amazingly talented human beings. And yet it's a play about nothing.
Yes. Yes, it is. Oh, wow. That was and that dance number. Oh my goodness. That was so good.
With Ike and Thad and Will. Is that Jerry with them? Yeah.
But next we have Tiger's Beast Still, which was directed by Carrie Moran this past winter, fall, fall.
Yeah, late fall, early winter, and I mean, this is Carrie's first time at the helm on a full production, and again, you know, amazing cast, fantastic crew. You know, Steph Finn up there on the couch. She had just come back to Charlottesville. I think this was the first show she was in since she returned. Katie Rogers plays her sister and is the lead of the show and had never really been in a straight play. Isaac Russell plays the young man, and you know, he's all of 17 years old, had never been in a play at Live Arts. He and I have a special bond because he was my mentor, or my apprentice in the Mentor Apprentice show the previous season. But and then Michael Volbendesta, who'd been around for years but hadn't been around for like a decade. And it was just a really, really amazing cast. The crew is really strong. This set, Carrie, the, you know, Renaissance human that she is, had designed the structure, but it was filled with this stunningly gorgeous mural and other brushwork from Warren Craghead and the painting team, and it's just it was astounding how beautiful it was. It was really high concept design. You know, it's Mimi's back right there, who did the costume design. And I think Daryl did all the props for this one, Daryl O'Connor, and it was quite a job. And big shout out to Jim Horscotty, who was the stage manager, who had a lot to deal with. And he's one of those people who you see a lot of in a lot of these pictures, and you don't hear his name a lot, but he's done a lot with live arts. He and Amy Goffman, his wife, the costume designer for Men on Boats, they've been around a lot. And here are these awesome human beings in this cast. And that kind of says it everything about this show.
Awesome. So after Tigers Be Still, we had The Humans, and I'd heard some pretty cool things about the show before I saw it, but this was my first time, and what a stellar cast! Like Jerry, Larry, all of them. Like
Meg, and this was another one where you have people who have like say Jerry and Larry have been on live art stages nonstop for its entire history. Meg and Lena had been around a little bit, but I think had not been around for quite a while. And then up in the back and to the right, the young couple, Madeline and Johnny Butcher, had never been on live arts stages really before. Johnny's known about town. Madeline's a UVA student, but every one of them, they're just all awesome human beings, and really strong talents. And there's Fran talking with Ezra, the assistant stage manager. But Fran really just brought some amazing performances out of all of them. It's a family sort of dinner table drama dealing with, all these, every level of trauma and challenge that a family goes through. Betrayal, money problems, health problems, trauma and stressors and just everything. And it's a tough show and a massive set. And this was actually Annie Temming's first set as our interim TD at her first at the helm. You can tell she knocked it out of the park. I did see the original Broadway production of The Humans, and I did not like it.
What?
I didn't like it. And it was because I feel that there was no sense of the conversation around class and around access. And that was very present in this production. It was something that was very much alive on that stage, along with everything else. And the food, so much food.
Yeah, shout out to Mission Barbecue. They gave us lots of food for.
Yay, Mission Barbecue.
Show. Next, we had Men on Boats. I have my oar from this show. It was directed by you, and I decided that it would be great to stage manage. And it was one of the most fun things I've ever done. I think to have done it as a kid and come back and do it as an adult, I'm like, whoa, our volunteers, I know they are amazing. It was further solidified while I was working on this show.
Yeah. And thank goodness you did, so you were able to jump in when T hurt themselves. This was a fraught production in so many ways, but it was magical, and we had so much fun doing it. And that gorgeous set and these amazing human beings. And it was the Mentor Apprentice show, so it was a large group of people working on this play in this tiny little space. And it was really so much fun to go to production meetings and to talk to these young people about what they're doing and how they're living as part of this world and the story that we're telling, and engaging with that conversation with them. It was so much fun and so exciting. It was a really bright part of my day every time we had it, those production meetings. And then the team, Maya did the set design, Maya Wood, Amy Goffman did our costumes, Daryl O'Connor did our props, Heather Hutton, the magical, amazing human being, did our lights. And then Sky Devlin, who was also the assistant director, did our sound design. And they're all over the season too. That's another person who they are involved all of the time, almost always on the technical end of things. And they are a stalwart. And it's been really nice to get to know Sky over the past couple of years. But yeah, you can just see some of the amazing, like how these lights really play off the set. It it was so much fun to do this, and we had to cut it short, as we all kind of know. With the onset of coronavirus and government restrictions and all those things, we had to make that choice. And it was one of the very few times I've cried publicly in a really long time, going in and talking to the cast on what ended up being the night of our last performance. But it was nice because it's so nice to share that space with people and to feel okay doing that, even in this kind of setting where it's kind of a volunteer spot, it's kind of a job spot, it's kind of it's that weird middle lane of, I guess, family. But yeah, and they have, after we closed out, there was
what a fantastic cast. Well,
yeah, and Sweat. So both Sweat and the children, obviously we had to postpone them. And that is the word we're using. We are committed to revisiting both of those plays. We do our best to keep the teams in place. Adrian had already been working very hard. That whole team had been working really hard. We were about halfway through the build process. You walk into the Gibson right now and still see these sort of like halfway realized set pieces. And there was a lot of conversation. And a lot of disappointment across the boards, but we are committed to reapproaching this play and committed to finding ways outside of just the theater to engage with it. And the children, of course, was being directed by Betsy Tucker, and similarly, both of these stories are the wonderful Betsy. Both of these stories are really important, vibrant stories of right now. They're asking important questions, they're engaging with important subjects, and so we are really committed to reapproaching them when we're able to. And so with Sweat, we're looking for ways to engage outside of the theater. The children, we're looking to see what other plays it might work well in conversation with. So we have some thoughts about it and maybe a plan, but what they say about making plans. Then in the Heights, you see coming soon.
What? What do you mean?
So if you're on the website or the Facebook page or getting the newsletter, that we are accepting video auditions for our production of In the Heights. We do have a very specific plan in place to realize it. So we're going to be doing digital and online rehearsals for all of June and hybrid of that probably through July. And then our goal is to have a picnic style performance outside in August. And we'll be really paying a lot of attention to the information. We're really committed to making data-driven decisions around it. And safety is obviously the most important part of this. And anybody who's ever worked with me on a build knows how seriously I take that. But we also feel that the opportunity to get together is a service to the community. And so we want to try to do that in any way we can.
Okay.
Yeah. We're really excited about In the Heights.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Could you talk to us a little bit more about what that decision was like for you, or for you and Anne?
Sure.
As far as deciding when to close down the show, what that means for Live Theater, or even what does Live Theater look like in the next few months or years?
I won't pretend to be able to speak to years. I think that so it's been really fun because we've been engaging in a lot of conversation around sort of the ontological meaning of theater. What is theater? What does it mean at its heart? What does that really mean? And obviously, I think there are as many answers to that question as there are theater members, theater makers, and audience members. But for myself, I know that one of the things that is really important, and one of the things that I notice that is very different in my experience of being an audience member for theater, is that it affords me a certain amount of agency. It affords me a certain amount of control over my experience in a way that isn't really meaningful in television. Like, you can change the channel, you can turn it off, but you don't have, there's a specific way in which you can watch when you're seeing something or experiencing something live that you don't get the same experience when it's filmed. And so personally, I'm looking for ways in which to engage that are similar, that are in this digital realm. How can we uplift that experience of actually watching? So it's more than just sitting here staring at a screen, which, as we've seen just this past 30 days, like, there are ways to make that really fun. And that's just in our circle. I mean, there are a lot of people doing a lot of really exciting work, I think, for this medium. But I think that before too long, I think that people will, I don't think things are going to get back to normal. I at least hope we don't return to exactly the way things went and were structured. But I think that people will be gathering again soon. And as soon as we're able, I think that people really want to do that. I think that there's a vibrancy to sharing a room with a bunch of strangers or friends that is very different than anything else. What do you think?
What do I think? Oh goodness, I honestly don't know what's gonna happen. Take it one day at a time. What I do know for certain is that live arts is so nimble that it's gonna continue to be in the DNA and fabric of Charlottesville. Don't know when exactly we'll get there, but I know we will be there. So I guess that's another thing I'm looking forward to, is like being able to tell this story to the next generation. Be like, we went through this and we made it. How awesome was that? So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think of some of the conversations I've had with people who were making theater in downtown New York, on the day that 9/11 happened. And that question of like, what do we do now? And I think in so many ways, like, what's happening right now, this pandemic is much more of an existential threat to theater on a whole than that incident was. But I think that it's a place that we can look to for guidance. And of course, theaters have been around for thousands of years, and there have been many pandemics before this. And so this is, it's survived in the past, and it would surprise me if it didn't.
Well, I am so stoked to have the Men on Boats cast come out. Before they pop out, can you tell us a little bit about Men on Boats? If people didn't see it, are there men? Are there boats?
There are no men. There are no boats. A lot of different productions have used boats. We had none. So Jacqueline Backhouse, the playwright, she wrote this as an exploration of the true story of Major John Wesley Powell and his expedition down the Grand Canyon. And it was the first government-sanctioned expedition. Obviously, Indigenous people have been traveling that route for a very long time, and even United States citizens had done so beforehand. But it was this government-sanctioned expedition, the big map-making expedition, and she was in her exploration of this history, she started thinking about storytelling and the stories that we tell and the stories that we are able to tell. And I think that part of her experience of it was that she felt excluded from that moment in history, which makes perfect sense because so many of those things excluded women and excluded people of color and excluded everybody who wasn't, landowning white male. And so she wrote this play, and the play, per the playwright, is explicitly to be cast by people who are not cis white men. And that is the one major guidance. That and two of the characters must be cast with people of color. Excuse me. And that act of casting restriction or guidance is, in my opinion, it's exploring those roles of gender and assumed power structures, and poking holes in it, and making fun of that assumption that we kind of societally have. I got asked by one actor in the callback process, like, well, why is this funny? Is it funny because, you know, the person asking is a woman? Is it funny because I'm a woman? Like, is that what your intent is as a director? And she was testing me, and rightfully so. And I said, well, yes, but it's not laughing at you. It's funny because you're a woman poking holes in this structure. If it was a man making this joke, it wouldn't be funny, because that's the extant assumption. And so if we're able to point at the ridiculousness of structure, then we're able to kind of move past it, I think.
Okay, well, I'm so excited to have the cast. Come on out, cast. Come on out. We're so excited to have them reading Men on Boats, a few sections from it. Fabulous job, cast. That was wonderful. Well, Jeremy, do you have any thoughts, cast? Maybe do you want to introduce yourself?
Nice shirt, Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy.
Oh no! Well, there you are, Jeremy.
No, let's hear from the cast.
Well, I'm Jennifer Peart, and I was absolutely thrilled to be a part of this production. I've been involved with live art since I moved to Charlottesville in 2000. So my connection with live arts has been for about 20 years. I was hired, it was my first job here in Charlottesville. I was hired as the education director. I'm a teacher, I'm a middle school teacher now. But as education director, I headed up the latte program and got to really, being new here to Charlottesville, I got to connect with this incredible community. And I'm just so very thankful for the continuity of all the many great spirits that I've gotten a chance to get to know. And this show was an absolute blessing. I'm in love with the Grand Canyon. I'm in love with the Colorado River. A shout out to my brother. My brother and I did a raft trip down the Colorado River. And just to have been a part of this cast, Jeremy, you really did take a gamble on me and blessed me with this role. And this has been such a family. And honestly, I couldn't have stepped into COVID-19 without you fine folks. So thank you, and thank you for all our great memories and all our great good times ahead. So thanks again, and lots of love. Okay, I'm out.
Hi, everyone. My name is T. Ames. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I was on last night on 30 and 30, so a little, just kind of a quick thing. I started at Live Arts when I was 9 or 10 years old, so this is like my 15th or 16th year, I'm not sure. I actually met Jeremy when I was 17. Jeremy and Abri and I are all now officially Tandem Friends alums. And I did an emphasis trip, which is like basically a big like week-long trip for all students at the school, and we hiked ourselves up to New York City and met Jeremy, and he directed us in a show, a devised piece that we all kind of put together in less than 5 days. And it was crazy, because now looking back, I was like, oh God, he was so intimidating to me, and I really was so coming into who I was as an actor and a person. And then now I remember the first day of rehearsals or blocking for this show, Jeremy said, all right, if anyone has any questions about how I operate, how weird I am, ask T, they know. And so I feel like this production was a blessing in so many ways, not only because I got to work with Jeremy again, but Shelby, I've known her since we were 10 years old, went to school together. So it's really nice to have been able to work together again. And even like all these new faces, I mean, like I had definitely met Jennifer Peart before, because I remember when I was little, you being the education director. Mariah, I've known you for a few years, but also meeting all you other beautiful, wonderful people who have become such an important part of my life. I mean, even though I did get injured during a fight call for the show 2 days before we had to cancel the run, Shelby stepped in for me for 2 nights before we had to cancel it. I'm getting better, it's still getting stronger, my knee. But even in the midst of all of that, the fact that all of you were there to help me and support me along the way means so much. And I agree with Jennifer. I couldn't have done any of this quarantine without our group text chat and having all of you to kind of talk to and lean on in so many different ways. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Stella Bowman. This is my illustrious co-star, Harold the Fish. I had to give him a shout out as well. And this is my first live arts play. I feel like I've been around live arts a lot, though, because I go and support my students or colleagues that have worked with live arts for such a long time. But I want to try to get in there, get my feet wet. And so I auditioned a couple times this season and just kept coming back and learning from those audition practices, I guess I'll say. And finally, yeah, a chance was taken upon me. Thanks so much to Jeremy for that. And I feel like John Colton Sumner is someone that is similar to me, just an adventurer. So I feel like I really fell into that particular role. But I've loved this cast. And, Jeremy, I think, was such a great first director to have as well, because he's so open to having conversations. And this cast, along with Jeremy and Shelby, just became a family. They accepted me for my weirdness and doing crazy stuff, getting people going, which is all you can really ask for. So it was such a blessing. And I'm glad we kept in touch. And we were doing these practices before we even knew we were going to do this particular performance. That's how much we loved each other, and just a part, I think, of each of our hearts broke when, we were told, hey, this is your last show. But boy, did we make that the best last show that there could be. I think that was a great high to go out on. So I'm just so appreciative for this whole experience, and hopefully it's not the last one.
Hi, I'm Abri Roberts-Kedes. This is my first live art show as well. I was definitely nervous coming in. I just, I was the youngest and I didn't really know how that would work, or like if I would be treated any differently or anything like that. And I absolutely wasn't. Everyone was so accepting and welcoming, and I wasn't treated like I was any younger than anyone else. And when I first auditioned, I auditioned for the youngest because I thought that was all I'd be kind of fit for. And then I got the call back, which I was shocked about. And then also the final part, I was just so honored from Jeremy for thinking I could do that and believing in me. So thank you, Jeremy, for that. And it was super fun working on it. I also I know that I'm so grateful for the live arts community and welcoming me with open arms. I was super nervous to kind of get into it because I grew up watching it, and it was kind of I just idolized it, the community, and I was just this is something I can never really be a part of. And then I was welcomed in, and it was just amazing. I am so thankful that I spent the majority of the second half of my senior year with you guys every single night. I honestly preferred it to a lot of the stuff I was doing anyway. And I'm so glad that it continued past the show's end. And just huge thank you. And I love all of you so much.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Alana Adams. This is my first show with live arts, and I was terrified at auditions. Marion Brown sat me down and was like, hey, do you want to take a outside to collect yourself? And she is a wonderful human being and personifies everything about every single person I've met at live arts. Just very welcoming and kind and just hopeful and energetic and empathetic. And each of us have our own unique personalities, but it was a blessing to be a part of such a wonderful group of human beings into the live arts community so quickly. This is my first show since 2015. To be on stage again was scary and thoroughly fulfilling thanks to this cast. And I wanted to say thank you all for joining me on this journey.
Awesome.
I'm Gretchen York. At Live Arts, I currently run the Reader's Circle. My pronouns are she, hers. I am also a dramaturg and occasional actor. The last time I was on stage was in Top Girls in 2017. And I feel incredibly lucky to have been part of 2 shows at Live Arts that were ensemble based, like really close and ensembles, and we really got to know one another, and everyone was playing with each other. And I'm sort of thrilled by the way that within an ensemble show you sort of somehow find your own voice by working with others, and sort of it's this sort of balance between sort of finding self and within community. And I think that that's something that Live Arts does really well. It's something that theater aspires to, and that I've been really inspired by when I've been on the Live Arts stage and at the Live Arts space. And I feel like this whole process has been so much like this, a sort of love letter to one another and to this process. And we've taken so many moments to really appreciate one another, and that's been so important in this process. So my gratitude to all of you, and my sort of gratitude to Live Arts. I said at the beginning of this rehearsal, like, I'm feeling grateful today. So thank you.
Way to go. Way to go.
My name is Ann Loebs, and I just moved to the area 3 years ago. Actually, I lived here almost 40 years ago, and I even took a class with the UVA drama professors. Of course, now is when my dogs are going to talk. So, guys got to be quiet. At any rate, so I have done 2 shows down in Carysbrook and Fluvanna, and I typically play the know-it-all spinster. So I thought, well, I'll try out for this show. There isn't a role for me, but audition. It'll be fun. And then I got a call back, and so I had to read in the scene for the scene that had the oldest person and the youngest person in the show. So there's one other older lady. She was older than me, significantly, I think, and then 2 young girls. And I thought, oh, this will be fun. And then I was contacted by Jeremy and said, well, you're playing the young one. And I kind of went, are you crazy? But Jeremy is not crazy. It has been so much fun. And actually, my spirit, I'm kind of young. I'm kind of immature. So, but this has just been so much fun. It's just such a delight, just from watching everybody and learning from everybody. I love where I know nothing and I can just soak it all in from everybody else. So it's been great. And thank you so much, Jeremy. And thanks everybody. It's been a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Mariah Layman. I played Old Shady, obviously. She, her, hers. And before this is my first live art show. I was kind of like stuck in a rut before I auditioned, and was kind of just like, I had a whole lot of like creative energy that was didn't have an outlet. So I was kind of going crazy. And so I auditioned, and it was really terrifying because I'm just an overthinker, as probably everyone knows by now. And I did not really expect to get a call back, and I did. And I think this whole thing kind of feels like it was a lot of stepping outside of my comfort zone. Just like the auditioning, also Old Shady, like he's very restrained and quiet. And I'm not at all. So, and I've always played characters who are very vibrant and eccentric, and honestly, they're all older. I always play older characters, so it made sense to me that I got an old man. It was definitely kind of different to have to be on stage and not like, I don't know, shake my hips and like jazz hands and like be really intense like I usually am on stage. And so it was kind of it was good for me to just learn how to just take a step back. And one thing I loved about the show is that when I was having like bad days or, not really wanting to be around people, just wanting to be by myself, whenever I came, it was definitely like a release, kind of like I was able to step into rehearsal and forget kind of about like whatever issues I've had during the day. And I felt that even when I couldn't step outside of that, I felt like I was definitely surrounded and supported by everyone, and like no matter what place I was at. And I really appreciate that, because I do think, as Jeremy said, sometimes people who are into, you know, art in the arts, performing arts, can sometimes let their ego get in the way. And I appreciate that this group was very down to earth and just accepting of me. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I definitely think that I'm definitely going to be auditioning for future shows. So yeah, and I'm really just grateful for everyone's support and loving me and my impulsive behavior sometimes. And so yeah.
Love you.
Love you.
I'm Deborah Arenstein, she, her, hers. I began my relationship with live arts in 2015, working on Fight Night sound design. I've done set dressing, I've done gala design, I've been an actor, and I don't know how I ended up in this show. I'm also a board member there, so whatever it was that sparked me into the audition and brought me into this group is magic, and it was just the right place to be. I heard Mariah talking about no ego, and that was running through my head, that it's one of the only times I can remember being in a cast this size that literally there was no ego. Like, clearly we were all putting each other first, and it was really beautiful, cast and crew. I think we all took a lot of risks. We all pushed ourselves out of our comfort zones, and we created a space where that felt safe and where that felt right. And, you know, in terms of being in the last show before the pandemic, I feel blessed to have had this as my exit, you know, from that world into whatever world we're in. But like, how lucky to have had this be what carried me out in whatever way that makes sense. So I love you all, each individually, uniquely, and as a group, and thank you.
Awesome.
You're muted.
Muted.
I need to be quiet. I'm Jen Lawless. I'm she, her, hers, and I've been doing live art stuff since about 2013. I was in Philadelphia Story, Master and Margarita, and The Liar, and I've done props for a couple of shows. I really loved being in Men on Boats, and I was really heartbroken when it was canceled, and I don't want to cry in front of everyone. So you guys all said all the wonderful things, and I'm just going to talk about some other things that I did this season. I helped make some headpieces for Follies, which was really fun. I got to work with Trisha on that. One of my favorite things that I've ever done for live arts, I also did for Follies. I did some posters of some beautiful ladies that I painted, and that really fit in with my actual artistic training and interests. So that was one of my absolute favorite things that I've done for live arts. I did the set for the holiday show, and I decorated live arts for the snowball. And I also did the props for Humans, which involved a whole bunch of food and booze, which wasn't really booze. And Jeremy and Liz helped me make fake beer with that. We had cans of seltzer that we had put sleeves.
Oh, the secret!
Oh no, is it a theater secret? I told everyone. No. But I love live arts. I love giving my time and my skills to our theater community, and I love you guys. I love you guys so much.
Awesome. Love.
Oh, well, awesome. So Jeremy, I don't know if you want to speak to how this experience was special as it relates to the mentor apprentice, relationship that we have with this production.
Yeah. And quick side note, big shout out to Bruce Young for the headpieces in Follies. Yeah, I mean, well, so it was a couple of things. So for me, Men on Both is actually the first time I directed at Live Arts. So that for myself, it was wonderful and amazing to get the chance to do that. Brie was very insistent that happened. And so that it was also a mentor apprentice show was really funny because there were, one of the first concerns in my mind when it got to it was like, well, so here's this mentor apprentice show. I'm now the interim artistic director. I'm a cis hetero male. Like there's all this power stuff in place. I'm directing the show. Like I'm going to have apprentices. Like there's going to be like how do we handle this? So luckily we had, Kelly Schermeyer was our producer and Miller was obviously really closely involved. And Shelby as well. So we were really intentional about trying to empower everyone around that space to just to be open if like something came up that they were uncomfortable with, and it paid off. It was nice because I think that everybody felt really uplifted in that, and by the end of our production process, I've got 14-year-olds busting my chops in the middle of a meeting, like teasing me. So I feel like we created the right energy around it. They were also like, I mean, the apprentices showed up. I mean, you walk into one of those builds on a Tuesday night or a Saturday and the apprentices are there. And it's like lighting apprentices are there painting the set. The costume apprentices are there working on props, and like, Marietta, our props apprentice, was working on stuff at home with their dad, and like, I mean, it was just wonderful that everyone wanted to do it, and that maybe that goes back to why I wanted to be back here at Live Arts. It's because people are involved because they want to be. It's not a job. It's not a just the next show. It's like, here is a piece that speaks to me. I want to work on that piece. So I'm going to work on that piece, and people show up. And they do so because they love it and because they think it's valuable and because they want to. And it is miles better to work with people who want to be there than it is to work with people that are just getting paid to be there.
Yep.
So big love to all of the apprentices. I'm not going to list them all here because, again, I will forget one of them, and we love all of you humans.
Bring in the love. Bring in the love.
Yeah.
Bring in the love.
Well, Jeremy, is there anything you want to add before I start wrapping us up for tonight?
Nope. Thank you, cast. I've said a lot to y'all in person, and so I'm not going to repeat it publicly, but y'all know I love you. So thank you for coming and sharing space with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, cast. Y'all are so talented. I also want to thank the audience for spending your evening with us. If you feel so moved to do so, you can help us support our mission of forging theater and community by donating to our Forging Ahead campaign. You can find a link pinned in the comments below, or you can email me, or you can call me, whichever, I'll help you out. But thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Please be sure to join us tomorrow evening for the last episode of 30 and 30, where we will have our core presentation and we are celebrating our volunteers and our community. We will be joined by a few special guests. I'm not going to name them because I might get in trouble. So please make sure you pop in tomorrow. Thank you so much and have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.